Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I am Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Well, I never thought that I would ever do another video about solvent traps. I was hopeful that I would never do another video about solvent traps, and I am quite hopeful that this will be the last video I do about solvent traps. But there has been some developments in the world of solvent traps. Are they solvent traps or are they suppressors? Well, we're going to write the final chapter in a long and sad story. So today, let's spend a few minutes talking about Solvent Trap Update, the sad and final chapter of Diversified Machine. Okay, so the issue that we're going to be talking about today is not a new issue. We have beat this horse to death, but this is hopefully the last time we will talk about it. But it is a kind of an important development. Now, to give you a little historical perspective, how we got caught up on this. Back last August, I decided to do a video about are suppressors legal in Washington State? And to make sure I knew what the hell I was talking about, I went and did a bunch of research about suppressors. And I personally have never really been into suppressors, so I ended up doing a bunch of research that evening about just the mechanics of them and how they're made and all of that. It was really fascinating. Okay, the next day on my Facebook feed, I start getting inundated with all of these ads for solvent traps, which candidly I'd heard of solvent traps but never thought of them in this way. And as I'm getting there, I'm kind of like, what the hell is going on here? So I start checking these things out, and I realize, oh, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Yeah, it's a solvent trap, but it's really, with a couple of holes drilled into it, we got ourselves a suppressor. So after I did the first video about, lawfully obtaining suppressors, I decided to do a second video about, hey, listen, if you guys are building suppressors out of these solvent traps, this is a bad idea, and here's why. And I listed a lot of reasons, primarily those found in ATF Form 1. Okay, the video got some hits, and away we went. Okay, fast forward to the beginning in January of 2022 now. What happens? Well, I look back at my analytics, and this video about solvent traps is suddenly picking up a bunch of steam months after it's been posted. I'm like, what the hell's going on here? So I start doing some more research, and lo and behold, the ATF has completely lost their mind, and they are going, crazy on all of these manufacturers of solvent traps. And that's where the problems began. They started raiding these companies that were making solvent traps, but they didn't stop there. No. And we started doing videos and updating, and we started an open line of communication actually with the ATF, because many of you out there, lawful and responsible gun owners, had purchased these things, and they were completely legal when you purchased them. Many of you actually never used them for anything other than solvent traps. Some of you realized that they were not particularly useful for suppressors, and some of you, I recognize, milled out a bunch of these things and used them as stocking stuffers, okay? So, and we broke y'all down into 3 categories. As we were going through all of the different ins and outs of this solvent trap dilemma, we basically had y'all broken down into 3 categories. Those that bought them and never did anything with them. Those that bought them and converted them to suppressors but had filled out Form 1s, which again turned out to be a whole nother can of worms that I'm not going to bore you with. And then the third category, those that were had milled them out but never had done any kind of ATF paperwork. And you were the group that I was most worried about. Okay, well, last month, a gentleman named Christopher Ridenour, okay, pled guilty to the felony of conspiracy to manufacture and deal in silencers. That's right, he pled guilty to a felony in federal court that he had been unlawfully manufacturing suppressors and dealing in silencers. Okay, Washington State, we use the language suppressor. I believe the federal government uses the term silencer. It's all the same thing. The company that Mr. Ridenour owned and operated, Diversified Machine. Yes, that Diversified Machine. Yes, the same Diversified Machine that many of you got nasty little letters from the ATF saying, hey, you bought some Diversified Machine parts and we need to talk to you. And that, again, led to a whole nother series of videos and conversations back and forth with the ATF, which, of course, they never gave us a straight answer. Now, Mr. Ridenour, in his plea statement, stated the following. Diversified Machine was a full-blown silencer manufacturing operation in Ridenour's pole barn involving thousands of silencer components, including cylinders, baffles, spacers, monocores, end caps, and muzzle brakes. And yes, the feds will typically squeeze statements like that out of individuals, but that, for the purpose of the law, is the operative facts here. Now, wait, there's more, because, see, Mr. Ridenour was the third person to enter pleas to similar counts. There are two other people. Colin Swanson, he's in Oklahoma. Mr. Ridenour was in Michigan. Mr. Swanson was in Oklahoma. Now, he was Diversified Machine's quality control expert. He was the ones that was actually testing, milling these things out, checking the decibel level, seeing what they could do to make them more and more effective as suppressors, okay? And then another person, Nick Logan, in Illinois, he too has pled to the same felonies. And he was, what his job was, he was in charge of customer support. And so he was working with customers to make sure they could really understand how to properly mill these things out for the most effective use as a suppressor. Now, in the plea statement, too, Mr. Ridenour admitted that his company, Diversified Machine, had profited approximately $1 million through the sale of what now turns out to be unlawful suppressors. Mr. Ridenour is set for sentencing on September 22nd. He faces up to 5 years in prison. Listen, if you received one of those nasty little letters from the ATF about a Diversified Machine part and you haven't done anything about it, you might want to think about contacting us at WashingtonGunLaw.com, or of course you can call us directly at 425-765-0487. Now, let's remember, part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we preach all the time here at Washington Gun Law, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.